Kyle here from All Media Reviews, here to try doing more Albums of the Year, another Albums of the Year video. 1968, it's still kind of a, here's the image or whatever with the collage of albums that I do and don't have. So I'm going to go over a bunch of records. I didn't take that out. They don't really have a place for, but a lot of this is just kind of splitting hairs because I'm not, totally like attached to a lot of these records. So I have, this is outside the top 11. I have a top 11, but I have a few other records on the collage. I don't know why I'm missing a few in there, but this is Tomorrow from, Steve Howe's first band, which is like psych pop, basically. That and, let's see here. Giles and Fripp, The Cheerful Insanity of Giles and Fripp. That was pre-King Crimson, obviously. Here, so I'm looking forward. The debut album from Soft Machine came out in '68. That one's not ranked. I don't have it, I don't believe. Fairport Convention, their debut album, also self-titled. And then Quicksilver Messenger Service's debut album, also self-titled. And The Nice, Keith Emerson's band, The Thoughts of Emeraldus Davjak. The debut album from Deep Purple, Shades, which I could be wrong, but I think that's the album that has Hush, which I suppose based on that alone I could have included it. Let me just look quickly. Yeah, of course they don't actually have that on here. I think it does have Hush, so anyway. Jethro Tull's debut album, This Was, and Caravans, I believe, self-titled album, which was also debut. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 debut albums that, while bands would go on to do greater and bigger things, it was kind of interesting. A lot of them got their start in '68, so... Alright, so I can't find my copy. I thought I had it on cassette tape, but the Moody Blues, number 11, In Search of the Lost Chord, which I don't like it as much as Days of Future Past, but Ride My Seesaw, Voices in the Sky is another kind of memorable track from this record. It's whatever's the third record. So, yeah, Ride My Seesaw is the one main hit, I don't know it that well, and that's why I didn't finish this high. So next, number 10, Cream's Wheels of Fire, which has White Room. Again, that's the token track on that record. It was really like blues rock, but that was their pop hit. So that was number 10. Number 9, I have the Monkees, the first of a couple of Monkees records on here. Follow-up, Pisces, Aquarius, and Jones Ltd. Bird the Bee and the Monkees. The Bird the Bee and the Monkees, which has most well known for Daydream Believer, of course, but which is a Davy Jones track. But it has Auntie's Municipal Court, Tapioca Tundra, Valerie's another sort of smaller hit, Zoran Zam. It would finish higher if it was one that I'd go back to, and my wife and a lot of fans go back to. I know some people that love it. Of course, like the, what is it, More of the Monkees is known for Daydream. I'm a Believer. This is highly known as the album that has Daydream Believer, so it sold pretty well. But anyway, that's at number 9. Number 8, I have a live album. No, I have number 8. I don't have a live album. I have Simon and Garfunkel's Bookends, which I was listening to some yesterday, and best known for man, I'm just spacing on. I believe it has the Mrs. Robinson theme. Yes. It also includes Sounds of Silence or another version of something. No, it doesn't. There's one other. America, and Hazy Shade of Winter. Which Hazy Shade of Winter, both those songs I know the covers more than those original Simon and Garfunkel versions. America, yes, covered. Hazy Shade of Winter got sort of well known when I believe it was the Bangles covered it. Anyway, but I was listening to some of it yesterday, and it's a pretty decent record. Some of the songs are "Save the Life of My Child" and "Old Friends." Love the sort of driving rhythm on that song. Faking It. So it's a pretty decent record, Bookends. I remember went to go see Bridge Over Troubled Water performed by Collective Unconscious years ago up in St. Cloud, Central Minnesota, and I was listening to a lot of Simon & Garfunkel leading up to that, and Bookends was one of the ones I listened to. But there's one track on here. I think it's called Voices of Old People, and that I didn't necessarily need to hear. I don't want to be hearing that necessarily again. But anyway, so that's Bookends from Simon & Garfunkel at number 7. Number 6, or number 8 rather. Number 7, the live album from Ravi Shankar, which he got pretty well known at the Monterey Pop Festival. So of course Monterey Pop Festival is famous. It had Hendrix. It had Dead and The Who. A lot of people that went on and did play at Woodstock, but some people did not. I don't think Ravi did, but he played, of course, here, and it kind of introduced, in some ways, the world to him. He had been, obviously, friends with George Harrison, or became friends with George Harrison not that long after this. But yeah, it's classic live record. I think it's just like 1 or 2 tracks, though. It's like a flow of consciousness jam, basically. But yeah, the Monterey Pop Festival. I have some live albums on my list. I don't typically focus on live albums, but if a live album is noteworthy from a year, especially a year that's sort of thin, a lot of these years in the 60s are for me, live albums certainly are warranted to be included. So, okay, number 6, that was number 7. An album that I probably would have put much higher many years ago when I first heard it, but I revisited it yesterday, and I'm not as keen. It's good, but it's not as fantastic as I remember. It's Van Morrison's second record, Astral Weeks. There's some good stuff on it. I like the jazz element to it, but some of it is like free jazz, which I'm not crazy. I don't know if he was like listening to a lot of Sun Ra. Doesn't really have any of his hits. The title track might be the most well-known, or that tune that Jeff Buckley covered. Let's see here. Where did I do? Because I was just Young Lover or something like that. Just want to make sure I can add details. Yeah, The Way Young Lovers Do. Jeff Buckley's version is quite different, though. But I like it. I understand its praise, but I have to admit that it's kind of slow. And as much as it's got like a bunch of longer tracks, so it's like more proggy, it's kind of hit and miss. I mean, the title track, Sweet Thing, Cypress Avenue, and he brings back the lyric Cypress Avenue, I want to say, on Madame George. Madame George is almost 10 minutes, and it goes on a little too long. A lot of these are slow parts that kind of meander. Ballerina I kind of dig, but it's, I mean, if I'm going to a Van Morrison record, Moondance, I don't know if I would. I used to completely, like, always say Astral Weeks, even though it was a second record. Now I'm just kind of, that's why I demoted it. It used to be like in my top 5 records for sure this year when I originally made my list. So anyway, but it's still a good record. I don't hate it. I just think, I think it's a little bit too subdued for me at times. And as much as I love instrumentation, waves of flute and violin and stuff like that, it doesn't always go that far. So anyway, so number 5, that was number 6. Another record that I kind of consider to be not as good, as favorable compared to a lot of people. And I don't have a full like standard version, but I have a double album, like collection that includes it. This is Pink Floyd's The Saucer's Full of Secrets, their second album, which I have, of course, on a nice pair. So here's my vinyl. I don't want to get in trouble with the artwork, of course, but of course, there's not really. There's that, and then there's this side of Nice Bear, which also includes Piper at the Gates of Dawn. But my go-tos on this album have always been Accept the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, and there's one other one, Remember a Day, and that's a Rick Wright. Yeah, that's a Rick Wright tune. So I like Corporal Clegg, Let There Be More Light, I believe it is. Jug Band Blues. I find the title track just to be kind of a meandering sweet. I think The Who did it better on that last track on Quick One While He's Away. I found that version of a sweet worked better. So, you know, Pink Floyd would do other records I enjoy more. I definitely lean toward Piper between their first two records. Unfortunately, that Saucerful, while it barely had his contributions, was the last record that had Syd Barrett. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would finish dramatically higher if it was a more, like, favorite or, you know, listened to record from Pink Floyd for me. I just think that it's sort of uneven, and a lot of people praise it. They think it's better than Piper's, so. Alright, so number 4, another record I don't have a physical copy of, and I have one massive, like, issue I years ago with this record. It's the Zombies, Odyssey, and Oracle. And I just saw the documentary a few months ago on the Zombies. You know, one of my friends said this is better than Sgt. Pepper's or Magical Mystery Tour. It's the greatest psychedelic rock album ever. It is really well produced, and there's a lot of cool experiments on it. That being said, the vocals swallow into the mic a little too much. I remember I wanted to love this record, and I only liked it. But, I mean, unlike Pink Floyd's Saucerful or Van Morrison Astral Weeks, I kind of recognize and appreciate its ambition and its importance. And it was their masterpiece. They didn't really... Time of the Season, of course, is on this record. There's a mono version. That was the most well-known song on it. But unfortunately, the Zombies, you know, at this point, it was like the Beach Boys in some ways, where they didn't really do a ton of stuff that really got to the same level after Odyssey and Oracle. So, but anyway, that's number... I want to make sure my numbers are correct, 'cause I don't have it on the screen. Number 4. Number 3, we see the Monkees again. This is the soundtrack to the movie Head. Of course, at this point, the Monkees... The show was off the air. It got canceled in March of... I think it was March of '68. I'm pretty sure. And... Yeah, then they were... What do we do next? Well, let's do a movie. And we get this young guy named Jack Nicholson. And it's got... The soundtrack has a lot of... In fact, this is the 55-year anniversary. It was like yesterday or today of this album. November 6th. 3 of my go-to songs on their whole catalog, and that's why it finishes this high. That's why I definitely prefer it over Bird and the Bee. At one point, I thought it was almost my favorite Monkees album, but it has Circle Sky, one of my favorite Nesmith songs, Can You Dig It by the Peter song, and Porpoise Song, which is a song my wife doesn't like, but to me it's like perfect psychedelic pop. Carole King penned that track. It has a couple others that I'm not like mentioned yet. I want to say the Daddy song, which is kind of kitschy, but it works. Let's see here. Is it one of the last songs kind of toward the end of the movie? Because I think of this largely to do with the movie. I want to say... Do I have to do this all over again? Or Swan? One of those last 2 tracks off Head. Which is also like very Mickey Dolenz. Let me just see what Spotify helps me out here. You know, because I should know these albums by heart, and I'm looking at the record here. Yeah. No, I'm thinking of As We Go Along, which is just interesting. I don't know if I see this on here. Oh, no, it's the second track on side 2. So, As We Go Along is another highlight for me. But yeah, I mean, I like the ambitious as much as a lot of this is experimental, a lot of sound clips, a lot of field recordings kind of stuff, like studio trickery, like a lot of the bands were doing, like the Beatles were doing, you know, Beach Boys. Of course, the movie itself is even weirder than the soundtrack in a lot of ways. I appreciate the ambition, and it has enough music that I find it to be one of the best records of that year and one of my favorite Monkees records. That's why I have a physical copy. That's my own, not my wife's. So number 2... Of course, this is sort of sacrilege what I'm showing. I'm going with the Beatles, the White Album. I only was able to track down the second part of... and I'll get my... I'll give you my take on the White Album. You know, it's a flawed masterpiece in some ways. Double album. Of course, double album that has a lot of their best songs on it. The thing is, they were all done individually, or not individually, but my impression is that like the 4 members all wrote their own songs like by themselves. So there weren't as many collaborations on this record. It's sort of kind of you know, foreshadowing sort of the end of the band, unfortunately. Not quite, but yeah, my feeling it's kind of like The Wall in a way from Pink Floyd, or Landlines on Broadway. These big double albums where the best stuff is really good, but then there's stuff that just isn't that good. I mean, my favorites are like Why My Guitar Gently Weeps, Happiness is a Warm Gun. I like a lot of the animal type songs like Rocky Raccoon and Piggies I Can Take or Leave, but Bungalow Bill, I've always enjoyed that. It's kind of kitschy and kind of, you know, it's playful and childlike, but Helter Skelter, although I've heard Helter Skelter a lot. Revolution Number 1, of course. Revolution Number 9, a lot of people either hate or love. I don't mind Revolution Number 9, but I don't like listen to it regularly because it's more of just, again, studio trickery, just like the Monkees. Birthday, Blackbird, I think is good. It's a little, I don't say it's overrated, but it's kind of praised a little higher than I would. It's continuing story of Bungalow Bill, you know, of course. Glass Onions a favorite. Back in the USSR, Dear Prudence. So, I mean, it's more good than bad, the White Album, but at the same time, you know, it's a flawed masterpiece. You know, let's see here. Let's see here. Something to Hide Except Me and My Monkey. And I can't remember. No, I'm thinking of Let It Be. Because sometimes the later Beatles, like really late Beatles, I kind of mix up. But songs like Honey Pie and I Don't Never Need to Hear Again. So that's why it didn't win, but, you know, it's the Beatles and it's the later Beatles, and still, it was more hits than misses, so. Number 1, my favorite Jimi Hendrix record, Are You Experienced? I have the CD around right here, too, I believe, in my original CD I bought when I was in high school. Yeah, this is Hendrix taking even what he did with Are You Experienced and Access Full of Love and going to another level. He, in terms of studio experimentation, psychedelic blues rock. 1983, A Merman I Should Turn to Be. Shout out to Wayne from A Pocket Full of Heap. He was talking about that on his video today, and that is one of my favorite Jimi Hendrix tracks. I love that. It's trippy. He's trying to like play music that was underwater. Of course, this also has All on the Watchtower, which is just mesmerizing and mind-blowing. The guitar solo alone made it his own, you know, taking away from Bob Dylan's original. Burning of the Midnight Lamp, Voodoo Child, Slight Return, Crosstown Traffic, Little Miss Strange. You know, I mean, there's a few tracks in here, if you ask me if I was to listen to, I know like the back of my hand, but this is my favorite Hendrix record just in terms of ambition and its trippiness, and it's better than any record that I would consider from the records I know from 1968 for that reason. So anyway, that's 1968. Got through it. Like I said, I'm still kind of finding my feet, and, you know, as we get further into the years, get into the 70s, I'm sure that some of this will be a little easier, although there'll be some spotty years probably here and there in the 70s and 80s as well for me. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. And show me your list, too. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Post your top 5, 10, 15 albums from 68. I'd love to see that, too. Thanks for watching. See you next time.